Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's video. My name is Angel DeSantis. With this week's video, I am going to share how I craft texts or emails in order to set a boundary. Because setting a boundary is really difficult. And if you're here and you're watching this video, I don't know how you got here, but clearly you're here because you are thinking or attempting or trying to set a boundary of some sort. And coming from my background, I grew up in a cult called the Children of God. Coming from a religious trauma background and then leaving that community, or that cult rather, I've had to set a lot of boundaries in my life. And so I came up with a formula. And in this video, I want to share that formula with you. And then I want you to get in the comments and share your formulas or what you come up with. But this is something that I have used for friends, for family members, for dating, because I didn't date before when I was in the cult. And then once I was out and I started dating, I was like, oh no. So I had to learn how to set boundaries there too. And I have a little structure that I use, and I'm going to share that with you. And then I will also share, I'm going to read some texts and kind of break them down. And so far everything has worked. This formula works fairly well. Every once in a while you get a comeback, a snarky comeback, because people are upset that you're taking your power back. And sometimes people feel like your life belongs to them. Friendly reminder that it absolutely does not. Your life belongs to you. And if you are here to try and take your power back and set a boundary, then let's get into it. So there are 4 things to do when you are crafting. In this case, I'm going to say a text. So say you're crafting a text and you want to set a boundary. So there are 4 things to keep in mind. Number 1 is to only say truthful things. And sometimes we feel like we have to come up with an excuse, or a white lie is okay. But the trouble with that is if someone catches you in the lie, then what do? So it's always the most important thing, the most useful thing in the entire world is the truth. So only say truthful things when you're crafting this message. Number 2 is to state your feelings without over-explaining. Because a lot of times we feel like our feelings are not valid. And if you feel like your feelings are not valid, then when you're using your feelings to set a boundary, you might feel like I have to over-explain. I have to explain why I feel this way. And it started way back in my childhood when this happened, and that's why. No, your feelings are valid. State what they are. That's it. You don't owe anybody an explanation about why you feel what you feel. If I'm in an interaction with somebody and they stand up in a menacing manner and take a step at me, I don't have to be like, ooh, I'm feeling afraid right now, but the reason is, and maybe you don't mean to make me feel that way. However, I feel unsafe, back up, I'm leaving. That's it. There's no explanation needed. How I feel is valid, and then I take the action. So a lot of us feel the need to over-explain our feelings. You don't owe anybody an explanation. Your feelings are valid. That's it. So number 2 is state your feelings without over-explaining. Number 3 is take responsibility for setting the boundary. Because sometimes what I found in my life is that I'll set the boundary, but I'll lay blame for the other person. I'll say, well, you were making me feel this way, and so that's why I'm going to sever this relationship. And what that does is it invites discourse, because then they can say, no, I didn't. Or, well, I didn't mean to, so you're acting up. So I found that taking responsibility, saying, I feel this way, and perhaps that's me being sensitive, but I feel this way, so I'm going to take a step back and work on my sensitivity. And then there is no invitation for them to respond. Because if you are laying the responsibility for how you feel in their hands or at their feet, whatever the expression is. If I say, for example, well, you hurt me by doing this, they can say, no, I didn't. Or I didn't mean to, so you're overreacting and you're actually the one in the wrong, and you need to apologize to me for saying that I hurt you. I'm sure we've all heard that. But if I say, hey, I feel hurt, and that's a me thing. I feel like I'm getting hurt a lot by you, so I'm going to go work on my feelings. So during that time, I would like to avoid people or avoid hurting myself, so I'm going to avoid people for now. And so I'm taking the responsibility. I'm saying I feel hurt a lot. Or I'm saying maybe I just don't understand, or, whatever it is, but it's taking responsibility for the feeling and then removing yourself from the situation instead of saying, well, you make me feel this way. Because when you say, well, you make me this, then they can say, there's a way for them to spin it around. But when you say, I feel this and I'm going to go work on it because I don't want to feel this way, there is no response back. It doesn't open the only option for them to respond if they're actually your friend and they're actually on your side. Their only option is to say, okay, good luck on your healing. And it's also a way to let them out themselves, because that's the piece that when you take responsibility for your feelings and you decide an action that you're going to do that doesn't involve them, that's it's forcing them to show their hand. So what was that? Was that number 3? Yes. So number 3 is take responsibility for your feelings and set the boundary. The last one, number 4, is to end the interaction by wishing them the best, but then close it out. And what I mean by that, and you'll see when I read you the text that I've created, is I end the interaction by saying, I wish you the best, or I hope you find what you're looking for, but I don't invite discourse, because this is not a discourse. This is you setting a boundary. It's not up for discussion. You're already here. You're already trying to set the boundary. So you have to close out the interaction. So I usually close it out, and then I scan it, making sure that there's no room for them to respond, that the only response they could give would be one to be like, look, good luck, and they can be frustrated. They can be like, whatever. But it's not open to discourse. I've closed the loop. I've closed the interaction. I have said, I need to take a step back. I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to ask you not to reach out to me. And I hope that you can respect that. I wish you the best. Done. You close out that interaction. So number 1, only say truthful things. Number 2 is state your feelings without over explaining them. Number 3 is take responsibility for your feelings and set the boundary. And then number 4 is end or close out the interaction. So those are my 4 ways to structure. That's the structure of the text or the email. And then now I'm going to share some of my texts with you. I'll probably also find a way to put it here in a text block. But I will also read it. So here we go. So this was something that I crafted for a friend who I was going in a certain way. I was deconstructing my faith. I was no longer believing that, the Antichrist was going to show up and kill me. And I was also losing my religion and my self-hatred at the same time. So I was on this train of I believe in myself and I love myself and I'm capable. And they were trying to remind me that, no, you're not. Only God's capable. Satan's going to get you. You're a piece of trash. All those things that you hear. And so we had a talk. And then after we left, the next day I was like, I feel really gross after talking to this person. I don't want to interact with this person. I know for a fact I'm going this way. They're going that way, and that's just is what it is at this point. So I ended up sending them this text, and it says, "Hi, I thought a lot about our talk yesterday, and I'm feeling really sad that it went the way that it did." So I just showed my feelings. I said, I did my best to communicate with you, but it seems like I made a mess and hurt your feelings, and I'm sorry for that. So I'm taking also responsibility for what I did. If I've made them feel hurt, I didn't want to. So I said, it seems I hurt your feelings and I'm sorry. It seems like we are moving in 2 different directions and I wish that we could stay close, but it seems that we mostly end up with a lot of miscommunication. During these next few weeks, I'm going to take a step back for my own sake and I'm going to learn more about what my triggers are and how to communicate better. I'm going to ask that you please don't contact me as I work through my stuff. I don't mean for this to hurt you, but I understand if it does, and I'm sorry. I wish you the best, and I'm hopeful that the time apart will be good for both of us. And that's what I sent. So I was truthful. Everything I said in there, I meant truly. I was sad that our talk went the way it did. It was really hurtful to me. And I was sad that I was losing this person as a friend. And I said that. I said, I'm sad. I said, it seems like I made a mess and I hurt your feelings and I'm sorry. which that's true as well. This person was feeling hurt that I was deconstructing, and it felt like I was betraying them. And I am sad whenever I hurt anybody's feelings. So it's a truthful thing for me to apologize and say, I'm sorry that I did that. And I also didn't say, I'm sorry that you feel I hurt you, because that's not an apology. So I said, I hurt you and I'm sorry. And then I said, it feels like we're moving in two different directions and I wish we could stay close, but we mostly end up with a lot of miscommunication. So that's how I felt. That's what I felt the interaction was. And then I said, during this next few weeks, I'm going to take a step back for my own sake and learn more about what my triggers are and how to communicate better. I ask that you don't contact me as I work through my stuff. That's the boundary. That's the boundary. I'm going to do this, and please don't contact me while I'm doing this. So, and then I close it out by saying, I don't mean for this to hurt you, but I understand if it does, and I'm sorry. I wish you the best, and I'm hopeful that time apart will be good for both of us. That's the closeout. So there is no invitation to respond. I've set a boundary so they know that I am taking a step back for my own sake. They know that I don't want them to contact me. And there's also like a little bit of a door for like, I'm hopeful that time apart will be good for both of us. And really there is no way for them to respond to that unless they can respect me, because a respectful person would respond to something like that saying, okay, if that's how you feel, okay, and like I'm hopeful that this time apart is good for us too. However, for those of us who are used to dealing with people who feel like you should feel terrible about yourself, the response I received to that text was a response that told me that I was terrible, I was sensitive. This was a sign of my emotional volatility of like that women have, like women are emotional. And here was the proof that I was a terrible, like giving in to my womanly wiles by having feelings. And then also a how dare you, like a how dare you need space away from me. We're supposed to be friends. Friends stay together no matter what. And I'm so disappointed in you, and I think that you're a terrible friend, and if you think you need time away from me, then you clearly never loved me in the first place. That was the response that I got, which showed me how this person really felt, because I showed my hand, right? I showed my feelings. I said what I needed. I created a boundary, and they raged against the boundary. And when somebody rages back against a boundary, you absolutely know that you should have set that boundary. So if you get an angry response to a boundary that you set, for a fact, that is a confirmation that you were right in setting that boundary. So sometimes we feel that we're scared to set a boundary because we're afraid of the response. If you feel that way, then you've got to set that boundary. Because their rageful response is the confirmation that absolutely you need boundaries in your life. You need boundaries to protect you from people who rage like that. And then my final thing is that their response will tell you how they truly feel about you. Let me see what else I wrote. I said, make sure that you don't use the words just or sorry more than once, because that's part of the over-explaining. And what I did is I would write drafts. I would write out the text or the email, and then I would go over it and make sure that I didn't have the words just or sorry in there more than once. I think I have sorry in my other one twice. If you feel like going over it, feel free. But I think I have it twice. But sometimes if you look at the thing that you send and it's like, I just feel this, I just think that, I just isn't a powerful word. It is kind of, it's justifying or it's excusing, so it doesn't need to be in there. And then sorry, I mean, sorry is a good word, and I do say sorry because I mean it, but I don't say sorry in like, sorry, I need this boundary, or like, sorry, I need time for myself. Because you, of course, deserve to be able to set boundaries in your life. And while I do think it's important to say sorry if other people feel like you've hurt them or if you've hurt other people, if you come from a background of trauma, we're used to apologizing for things that are not our responsibility. So go over and scan the text afterwards or scan the email afterwards and make sure that the word just and the word sorry isn't there more than twice, depending on how long the text or email is. Another one that I had, this one was to somebody that I had known that we hadn't communicated in a little while. There had been some like awkwardness between us, and always around the deconstruction, or like in this particular person's case, they were upset that I started this YouTube channel. They thought I deserved to be punished for it, and they had made that clear. And I had said, thank you, goodbye. I had set a boundary. And a year later, they reached out and they were like, hey, I'd like to get together. Like, you know, sorry I attacked you. And can we get together to have like a little coffee moment? And I felt guilty and I said yes. And I thought, okay, well, this person, you know, I did know them and I should give them an opportunity to blah, blah, blah. And so I had agreed to meet up with them for coffee. And then later on, when I thought about it, I realized that there was no benefit to adding this person back to my life. This person actually had a pattern of being fairly volatile, and every time something would go wrong in their life, they would lash out at the people around them. And I realized that by agreeing to this, I was opening the door to invite that pattern back into my life, and I realized that I didn't want that. So this was after I had agreed to set up a meeting with them, and I was trying to cancel it. So this is the text that I sent. I said, hi, I wanted to send you a little text to clear the air. First, I want to say thank you for reaching out and trying to connect with me. But after sitting with it for a little while, I'm going to cancel our coffee date. I've been feeling a little awkwardness between us, and while part of me wants to get along and try to repair our friendship, I'm also in this space of honoring my boundaries, and I would like to wish you the best, but I think it's best for me to stay stepped back from our relationship for now. I understand this might come as a shock or be hurtful to you. Please know that isn't my intention, but I understand if it is hurtful, and I'm sorry for that. I truly wish you the best, but I have to go with how I'm feeling. Thank you for understanding. So everything that I said was truthful. I used my feelings without over-explaining. I said I'm feeling a little awkwardness between us, and part of me wants to try to get along and repair a friendship, but I'm also in the space of honoring my boundaries, and I wish you the best, but I think it's best for me to stay stepped back from our relationship. That was how I felt. I think these things, just having a structure to them and understanding how to structure it is really useful. So I do have other ones for romantic partners, and I will link the context, or not link, I will state the context of those and leave them below. But I think when you are trying to set a boundary, it can feel really daunting. And my hope is that in sharing this formula that I have come up with and that I use for all my boundary texts or boundary emails, I hope that me sharing it is helpful and can at least point you in a direction where you feel confident, or there's at least some sort of formula. And of course, how people respond is going to be different, but it's really important that you feel like you have a confident way to set your boundary, and that you know how to do it, that you know that what you're feeling is not wrong. You wanting to set a boundary in your life is not incorrect. You absolutely should have boundaries in your life. And the person's response will really, really, truly show you how they feel about you. And they might say, oh, I understand. You've always been like this. Something like that, like those little microaggressions. So really pay attention to how people make you feel. Your feelings are not wrong. Your feelings are correct. And if you listen to them, if you listen to your gut, you listen to your feelings, they are right. If you feel like you need a boundary from this person, you're right. So hopefully you now have a little bit of a way to set it. I hope that this was useful. Again, please drop your text or whatever it is in the comments below, or if you're trying to craft something, drop it in there. We have a really great community, and I'm sure that everyone will contribute. But this was my formula. This is what I do. This is what I use. It's worked. It's worked for me, and I hope that it works for you. So thank you for being here, and I will see y'all next time.